Hello there, welcome back to my channel. My name is JaerTheBear, and there have been a sizable amount of interesting changes proposed to For Honor's core fight systems, which you can currently experience in the testing grounds, which is running from February 27th, 2020 until March 12th, 2020. In this video, I'm going to go over the changes that have currently been implemented into the testing grounds, give a brief opinion on them, and then towards the end of the video, I'm going to have a small discussion about what I think overall about the changes. Two things to keep in mind. Everything in this video is subject to change. 2 weeks from now, they could change some things in the testing grounds that totally updates this video. If that happens to be the case, be sure to check back, because I will have a new video up detailing the new changes, and I will also be leaving a link to the patch notes in the description so that you can go and examine the changes for yourself. With all that out of the way, let's jump into the changes. So the first bullet point is entitled Improving Offense, and it reads, "We feel the game is currently too skewed towards defense. At all skill levels, attacks are too easily blocked or parried. The effects of this are especially noticeable when you face a strong opponent who can react to all your openings." Reading further, there are two more bullet points that read, "We want to move the game towards a read-based defense instead of a reaction-based defense to ensure that your attacks land more. Skills required for defense shifted from reactive to predictive since your defense against some of the fastest attacks, 400 milliseconds and faster, you used to react to, will now need to be anticipated, or read. We also want you to attack more often and mix up your attacks more, so we've made changes to attack damage, stamina penalties, and attack recoveries to help in this regard." So the next major paragraph is entitled Improving Consistency, and it reads, "Some players intentionally delay their attacks to decrease the time their attack animations and indicators appear, making them harder to defend against due to their inconsistency. These make the game less accessible as it introduces an unnecessary dexterity requirement to make your attack successful. And here's what they are doing in an attempt to rectify this issue." The bullet points read, "We are implementing a new technology to help with attack animations and indicators to be more consistent, which makes all attacks act as if they were delayed. This technology reduces the dexterity requirement for all players while also helping to reduce flickers and enables us to make zone attack inputs more comfortable." So that's all well and good. They're effectively trying to entirely eliminate the variable of delaying your attacks, which I find kind of like a double-edged sword. Delaying attacks can kind of expand upon the moveset of a character in a really indirect way and increase the strategy of playing with and against that character, but at the same time they do make the character more frustrating to play against in certain circumstances. For example, if you're a new player who just picked up the game and you've got an Orochi using delayed lights on you, and you're like maybe you're just a brand new player, rep 1, it's going to be much harder and more frustrating for you to defend against those attacks than, say, if he threw them directly one after another in accordance to the chain that he has in his moveset. So I can understand why they're attempting to eliminate delayed attacks. It also makes everything much more consistent. I feel like there's a little give and take here. But if I had to lean more to one side or the other, I feel like this is a better change because it makes everything much more consistent and it might help the dev team a little bit. So we're going to move on into the testing grounds patch notes, where this is where I'm going to get a little bit more opinionated. So, visible attack speed. All attacks now hide the first 100 milliseconds of their animation and indicators to opponents. Previously on the live version, they would be hidden for a variable amount of time. So again, we have that consistency thing where everything's now 100 milliseconds hidden across the board, and previously on the live version, which is the actual version of the game that's out right now, it varies. I didn't even know about that part. You know, if I was a developer, I'd want it all to be consistent. It would just make things so much more simpler. You know, unlike the English language where I just said more simpler when the correct way to say it would be more simple, but more simpler still makes sense, but I digress. One thing that kind of confuses me is it says the first 100 milliseconds of the animation will be hidden, and like that taken literally means the first 100 milliseconds of the animation you won't see, which would seem like it would make things kind of jarring and choppy, though I could just be taking it too literally and it could mean something entirely different. If taken at its literal meaning though, I feel like that's a very odd decision to make. Like, I understand the indicators, but not so much the animation. Moving on into feint believability, feints, soft feints, and cancels should be more believable as they also follow the changes to visible attack speed. So when you go to feint an attack in the live version of the game, there's a very definitive point in the animation where your character will halt the attack and the little after image that continues the attack will go forward, but it's very easy to discern when a character has feinted the attack. The way I interpret this little bullet point here is that it's just kind of blurring that line and making it harder to distinguish when someone has feinted an attack based on animation alone, which is pretty cool. I think it's a good change. It'll keep people on their toes and make people focus more in combat, so that's good. Alright, moving on into the stamina consumption changes. Stamina penalties on miss, block, and parry have all been removed entirely. I personally really like this change, and no, it's not because I constantly forget to manage my stamina bar during fights and run out of stamina, and then I get killed. No, that's not it at all. I like the change because it means more mix-ups, more aggression, more two players clashing in a series of strategic, combatic interactions, and much less of, I parried that person's heavy attack, they now have no stamina, I am free to do whatever I please, and they cannot retaliate because if they do, they will go out of stamina, and Daubeny help them if you're playing a character with a bash. Moving on into damage reduction, damage for attacks has been generally lowered. Some attacks and heroes have been adjusted more so than others to give us more consistent values across the cast. If you have been anywhere on the For Honor subreddit, or collection of subreddits, within the past 24 hours you would know that this is a very contentious change, to say the least. Some examples include Conqueror's Top Heavy Opener, doing 14 damage in the testing grounds as opposed to 33 damage in the live game. Highlander's Chained Heavy Attacks doing, I think, 28 damage in the testing grounds as opposed to 45 in the live game. And I also read that Shaman's Bleed Cancel is doing like 30-something damage in the testing grounds, whereas opposed to the live game, it does 1 damage on a successful Bleed Cancel, and then it does 4 ticks of 4 for an additional 16 damage, bringing the grand total to 17 damage. I don't know if that Shaman thing was true or not. I just happened to be browsing a subreddit and seeing someone being very upset about it. And in my opinion, for good reason, I think that is way too much damage for that to be doing. Damage across the board has been adjusted, and honestly, I'm really not sure how I feel about it. Like, some attacks, they just don't hit like they used to, and that's fine, but the problem is they barely hit at all. And then other attacks, which were very annoying before, Gladiator Zone, now hit even harder than their heavy attacks. What I am referring to is in the current iteration of the testing grounds, Gladiator's heavies from neutral do 25 damage, but their zone attack does 27, which I find to be very strange. Ubisoft, I am confusion. Why you do this? Why you do making the sense not? Moving on into attack recoveries, all light attacks and all heavy finisher attacks have their recoveries on hit, normal block, and interrupt block normalized at 700 milliseconds. I personally don't have much to say about this because I am critically lacking in knowledge about attack recoveries in For Honor. I know next to nothing about it. I know there's a light attack recovery, a medium attack recovery, and heavy attack recovery, but that is the extent of my knowledge, so unfortunately I can't comment very much about it. I know, I am a villain. Moving on to specific attack nerfs, Orochi's Top Light Opener and Zone Attack, Shaolin's Top Light Opener, and Lawbringer's Top Light Opener were slowed down to 500 milliseconds. Additionally, Orochi and Nusha's chained light attacks are now easier to dodge when they follow a light attack. With the changes to attacks, we believe that these nerfs are necessary to reduce the frustration associated with them. Overall, I feel that's very needed. With the 100 millisecond animation and guard indicator invisibility coming to all the attacks, slowing down some of the faster attacks in the game is something that obviously had to be done to counteract the fact that they're going to be harder to react to because you're not going to see them coming for as long. Overall, I don't think these attacks are going to function a whole lot differently than they do now. It was just a kind of a give a little here, take a little there to keep it balanced kind of situation. In my experience of the testing grounds, I didn't notice them functioning much differently. I didn't notice them being any harder to react to, in my personal opinion. At the time I was playing, I'd like to add, I could load up the testing grounds right now and not be able to react to them at all. But I digress. I feel like the attacks listed won't change too much, if at all. Moving on to zone attack input comfort. With the changes we've made to visible attack speeds, we're now able to make zone attacks easier to perform. Thank goodness, because I suck at performing zone attacks. So many times I wanted a zone attack and I either get a heavy or a light, and it just screws me over completely. I've lost so many fights to that, so I will get behind that change wholeheartedly. Custom matches. In this testing grounds, you'll be able to play custom matches both in Dominion and Duels. In order to play custom matches, you'll need a group beforehand. That's a good change. It lets people test out the damage values and numbers and recoveries, and it kind of lets people get their bearings with how some of the characters have been changed, because some of them have been changed pretty drastically. like Conqueror, for instance. And that is the end of the patch notes. And overall, my final opinion on this is it seems to be the most contentious change for the entirety of the For Honor community is the way the damage numbers were changed. The way characters inflict damage has been altered, and a lot of people don't like it. Some people do like it. Personally, I think the numbers still need to be tweaked a little bit. I kind of think they're too low. I think they're erring on the side of too low. As much as I like long time to kill in games, I've grown very accustomed to For Honor and the characters in For Honor hitting hard and being able to turn a fight around with a few well-placed attacks. As for all the other changes, I think they're quite good. I think the attack indicator and animation being hidden for the first 100 milliseconds of their startup is a very interesting and unique change, and dare I say, innovative. I think altering the feints is good. I think the stamina consumption is good, though I may eat my words in the future. Attack recoveries being all normalized at 700 milliseconds, that's good. It'll probably make things easier on the developers since everything's consistent. They don't have to mess around with a bunch of variables and numbers and stuff. I mean, they will have to do that. It's the nature of programming, but now they won't have to do it as much. You know, the way some of the attacks were changed, like Orochi's openers in Zone Attack, and Shaolin, and Lawbringer's Top Light, I think those were necessary. But again, like I said, I don't think they're going to function too much differently than they do now. Zone Attack input, that's good. Good for me, good for anybody who struggles with Zone Attacks. I know I do. Overall, I think the effort being put forth by the developers is a very good indication that they still do care very much about the game, and it really, really seems like they're trying their best to rectify the issues that the community has with the game while also maintain the appeal of the game, which I can appreciate. I feel like they really did their best to innovate with some of these changes, and these patch notes make me really excited to see what they're going to do going forward. With that being said, we have reached the end of the video. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a like. It would help me so much. And if you really, really enjoyed it, maybe even consider subscribing. That would just make my entire day. Also, comment down below and tell me what you thought. What do you think of the changes? What do you think of the video? What do you think of the cutest fuck art I use in my videos? Yeah, that's right. I know it's cute. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey there! Are you a fan of the art that I use in my videos? Well, you should be, because it's ultra adorable, and the wonderful artist who made this art for me is on Twitter at TeevesArt. They are a phenomenal artist and an absolute dream to work with. They're so flexible, they're so nice, their art is so damn cute, and I just love every bit of it. So go ahead and shoot on over to Twitter and check them out, maybe hit them with a follow, maybe commission them sometime. Alright, and with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and maybe even subscribing. Both actions really help my channel, and I'd be ever so grateful. Also, feel free to check out another video at the bottom right. With all that being said, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.